What you are about to hear is not just a story about an ancient piece of cloth. It is a story about something that has lived for centuries at the intersection of faith, history, and science. Something that has been examined, debated, worshipped, doubted, and tested, yet still refuses to reveal a final answer. Inside a cathedral in Turin, Italy, there is a linen cloth. At first glance, it appears ordinary. No gold, no jewels, no visible signs of extraordinary craftsmanship. Just fabric. And yet this cloth has challenged scientists, historians, and theologians for generations, because upon it appears the faint image of a man. A man who appears to have suffered intense physical trauma. A man whose wounds seem strangely consistent with a crucifixion. This artifact is known as the Shroud of Turin, and the question surrounding it has never stopped echoing through time. Is this truly the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, or simply a medieval creation that later became a sacred symbol? To understand this mystery, we must go back long before modern science entered the conversation. The earliest clear historical records of the cloth appear in the 14th century in France. At that time, it was presented as a holy relic, a sacred object believed by some to carry divine significance. But even in its earliest appearances, controversy already surrounded it. Some accepted it as authentic. Others immediately dismissed it as a forgery. And from that moment forward, the debate never truly ended. Later, the cloth was moved to Turin, Italy, where it became widely known as the Shroud of Turin. And as its fame grew, so did the intensity of the questions surrounding it. But it was only in the modern scientific era that humanity began to seriously investigate its origins. Because now, we had tools. We had radiocarbon dating. We had microscopy. We had chemical analysis, and we believed we might finally uncover the truth. In 1988, a major scientific test was conducted. Samples of the cloth were sent to multiple independent laboratories. The results were announced to the world, and they shocked many. The radiocarbon dating results suggested that the cloth originated between the 13th and 14th centuries. If correct, this would mean that Shroud of Turin is not from the time of Christ at all, but instead a medieval artifact. For many scientists, this seemed like the final answer. Case closed. Mystery solved. But in science, conclusions are rarely that simple, because the results themselves soon became a subject of debate. Some researchers questioned the sampled section of the cloth. Was it truly representative of the original fabric? Or was it part of a later repair or restoration? Because over centuries, the cloth had experienced fire damage, repairs, handling, and environmental exposure, all of which could potentially influence radiocarbon results. And so the certainty began to weaken. Meanwhile, another mystery was emerging: the image itself. Unlike a painting, there are no visible brushstrokes. No pigment layers in the way traditional artwork would show. Instead, the image appears to exist only on the very topmost fibers of the fabric, almost as if it was not painted, but formed. Some scientists suggest oxidation processes. Others propose chemical reactions caused by heat or aging. Some even suggest radiation-based explanations. But none of these theories fully explain every observed detail. And that is where the mystery deepens. Because when researchers examine the image more closely, they find something extraordinary. The anatomical details are remarkably precise. The positioning of the body, the wounds on the wrists and feet, the facial structure, and markings that resemble injuries consistent with crucifixion. But interpretation is where science begins to divide. Because while the image is detailed, its origin remains unclear. Is it a deliberate artistic creation? A chemical accident? A medieval experiment?
or something still beyond our understanding?
Scientists have attempted to recreate the image for decades, using pigments, using heat, using chemical vapor, using modern imaging techniques. But every attempt falls short. Each reproduction either looks too artificial, too modern, or fails to match the unique characteristics of the original cloth. And so, Shroud of Turin remains unmatched, unreproduced, unexplained, beyond consensus. For believers, the cloth represents something sacred, a physical connection to a central figure of faith, a relic that carries spiritual meaning beyond science. For skeptics, it is a sophisticated medieval artifact, a product of human creativity, devotion, or even deception. And for many others, it exists in a gray zone between both worlds, neither fully proven nor fully disproven. As modern technology advances, new studies continue to emerge. High-resolution imaging, 3D reconstruction, microscopic fiber analysis, blood pattern studies, each offering new insights, but never a final answer. Some analyses suggest the presence of biological traces resembling blood. Others question whether these traces are real or the result of contamination or later additions. Every conclusion seems to generate another question, and so the cycle continues. Interpretation after interpretation, theory after theory, but no universally accepted truth. And this is what makes the shroud so enduring. It does not behave like a simple object of history. It behaves like a mirror, reflecting whatever the observer brings to it: faith, doubt, curiosity, or skepticism. Over time, Shroud of Turin has become more than an artifact. It has become a symbol, a meeting point between science and belief, between historical evidence and spiritual interpretation, between what can be measured and what cannot. And perhaps that is why it continues to fascinate the world, because humans are naturally drawn to mysteries that resist resolution. Things that refuse to be fully categorized. Things that exist in the space between certainty and uncertainty. Even today, there is no final agreement, no definitive conclusion, no universally accepted explanation. And maybe there never will be, because some mysteries are not designed to be solved easily. They are designed to be questioned endlessly. And as long as questions remain, the mystery remains alive. So we are left with the same question that has echoed for centuries. Is the Shroud of Turin truly an ancient historical relic? Or is it a masterpiece of medieval creation that became something more over time? The answer may never be a simple yes or no, because some mysteries are not meant to end. They are meant to continue.